The Wisconsin Badgers are heading to the Big Ten tournament final. I mean, this one was just one of the best games I've ever covered in my few years covering the Badgers, even covering other sports and other teams. This one was a thriller. I mean, Wisconsin 76-75, an overtime win. Max Klesmit with the game winner. Let's break this one down. And so, because, I mean, this one was just a back and forth, a tight battle where things that you expected to happen didn't happen. I said in my prediction Wisconsin was going to win this game, predicted they were going to shoot the ball pretty well, had 35% as the benchmark for them to be able to win. Well, scratch that. They won, like I said, but they did not win the way that I thought they would. Shot the ball pretty poorly from three, 7 of 32 in this game, but ultimately got the win because of good defense at opportune times, buckets whenever they needed to, and just really a hard-fought, gritty victory over a really tough opponent in Purdue. In the beginning of the game, similar to the Northwestern game, Wisconsin starts slow offensively, missed all 5 of their first three-pointers. That allows Purdue to get out to a lead, but then they go on a bit of a run, an 8-0 run. They went on a stretch where they hit 4 of 5 threes. They ultimately took their first lead at 22-21, and then from there they kind of commanded the pace of the game for the remainder of the first half. It was back and forth. Wisconsin was in a tight battle. Ultimately, at the end of the first half, it's 36-36. AJ Storr was the story in the first half. He scored in double figures once again in the first half itself. So he was the guy who kind of kept Wisconsin in this game. Had 3 threes, though, this time in the first half. Yesterday was different, where he was attacking early on and really didn't shoot the 3 until the second half. Had 3 threes, though, in the first half in this one. And that was kind of a key for Wisconsin, who needed some form of offense to hang in there with Purdue. But some of the biggest parts of the game were players who didn't even play for parts of the game, because Zach Edey had 2 fouls early, was called for an offensive foul on Stephen Crowell, and they got a technical foul right after that. Both him and Crowell got technicals. That kept Edey out for a good portion of the beginning of the game. Tyler Wall, however, got 2 fouls of his own, so it's both sides kind of without key players. Then you go into the second half. There was a stretch where both teams struggled to score. It was around a 4 or 5 minute stretch where both teams struggled to score. Then Wisconsin kind of broke the ice, retook the lead when it was about 49-49. They retook the lead at 51-49 when Chucky Hepburn got a steal, ultimately got a slam, and there was a pass to an assist from Hepburn, and then the steal and slam. That ultimately gave Wisconsin the lead 51-49, and their defense held on at a certain point in the second half. There was a 5 minute stretch where Wisconsin forced 6 turnovers, ultimately didn't allow Purdue to score in that stretch, and that kind of helped them through some of their offensive lulls. Then down the stretch, it was just trading bucket after trading bucket. Purdue got to the free throw line a ton, 32 times. You can definitely question some of the calls, but there were a lot of fouls called, 24 in the first half, and then a ton on, even at the end of the game specifically for Wisconsin. But the Badgers managed to weather the storm, and the story of the second half was Chucky Hepburn. Ultimately ended with 22 points, but a humongous second half. He scored 14 in the second half and then 2 in overtime, but those second half minutes were extremely crucial, both offensively and defensively. Hepburn, he got 3 steals in the second half, and then in overtime with 21 seconds left, forced an offensive foul on Braden Smith, drawing a charge after picking him up for 94 feet. There was this game was ultimately dependent on how well Hepburn played. And this is also, mind you, him playing 35 or 38 minutes, coming off a big injury, that knee injury, that the soreness that kind of irritated him. He told me after the game that he had acupuncture on that knee so that he could play in this game. He was not going to let anything help him or cause him to sit this one out. Ultimately played 38 minutes in a key game and just delivered a marquee performance from the Badgers point guard. That was the reason Wisconsin won in the second half after, the back and forth in the first half. So Wisconsin just had timely plays after timely plays, ultimately weathering the storm despite the foul discrepancy, despite guys like Stephen Crowell, Tyler Wall, and Nolan Winter all fouling out at some point between regulation and overtime. That, it was tough. You had Carter Gilmore, who's 6'7", up against Zach Edey, who's 7'4", over the final 5 or 4-ish minutes, trying to, play defensively in that set. So Wisconsin definitely went through adversity, battled it. 3 key players facing injuries: Wall, clearly wasn't himself. Hepburn with the knee soreness, and then John Blackwell also facing an ankle, looking a bit sluggishly, limping at times as he dealt with that injury. But nonetheless, Wisconsin's heading over to the final. Max Klesmit with the game-winning floater over Zach Edey sealed it, and that is going to punch their ticket to the Big Ten tournament final. And like I said, so they're going to play either Illinois or Nebraska. I'm recording this at halftime of that game. Nebraska right now is commanding. They are up on top, so we'll see who they ultimately play. But the game tomorrow, 2:30 p.m., so stay tuned for all the coverage here on Bucky's Fifth Quarter. We got you both today and tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week heading into the NCAA tournament. Thank you guys so much for following along. We'll catch you guys next time.